All right, this is our take on getting fired. I say this humbly. I've never been fired. What?
You're forgetting the King Kong ride.
I wasn't fired.
Oh,
I was almost fired.
Hey.
But have you ever been fired, George?
Yeah, I was asked to resign.
That's called being fired.
Exactly.
Okay.
What happened?
I got quit.
What happened?
When I was at a record label, excuse me, I was at Capitol Records, and I came up with an idea to help promote bands that weren't getting on MTV by buying airtime on Discovery Channel and then forcing music videos into. It was on about 30 million homes, and I was actually hired to do a different job when I was there. When you put records into stores, the stores, if there's like hundreds of stores around the country under the same name, they know by genre generally what's strong. This one's an urban store. This one's a rock and roll. This one's a whatever it is. So they would split it out by their own formula on how many records go into a particular store to be sold. And my job was when they were sitting there and not selling
Records.
What?
Records.
Yeah, I know. You didn't even have,
I would have fired you just for this explanation.
when they were sitting there, and we got airplane to a different market, or the band was on tour in a different market, and the store didn't want to buy any more records. My job was to reallocate them to the markets that had marketing success, so they would sell through that way. And
How'd you get fired?
when I was doing the TV show, music TV show, I was ignoring the other job because I was told to focus on the show because it was working. So the program that I had created, and because I wasn't doing that job, they told me you're not really doing what we hired you to do. So they never said you're fired. I know it means the same thing, but they said we'd like you to resign.
But didn't they tell you what to do?
Yeah.
Didn't they tell you to go do that?
That's correct. But there's mixed signals on top.
You guys told me.
The guy in New York told me to do that, and the guy in LA told me to do the other thing.
So should you have gone to that guy and said the guy in New York?
No, because the guy in New York was
his
the
boss?
big boss. Yeah.
So why didn't you call the big boss and say, "Hey, this guy fired me because I'm doing what you told me to do"?
Well, I didn't really care about that at that point. My goal was how do I continue success of this show, because now it was free to do the show. I had other labels that would call me going, "Hey, I want to do that show," and they go, "Oh, you work at Capitol. We're not going to do it with you. You're a competitor." So this freed me up to do it with everybody. So I didn't really care at that point.
And they said to you in person, "Need you to resign"?
Yeah, they asked me to resign.
And if you said no, what would have happened?
They would have fired me.
So
6 of one, half a dozen.
well, I was thinking like
That's the only time?
That's the only time I can remember, actually. I haven't had that many jobs. I stuck with my jobs for a long time when I did them.
Okay. I was making a joke, but it's too personal. But
I know what you're going to say, too. That's funny.
see
I won't say it.
in our business, you don't really get fired. They just don't pick up your contract. Well, in the behind the scenes, acting is different. You're with the show, but like as a writer or producer on TV. The season ends,
Yeah.
and then sometimes
Or it doesn't end.
Or it doesn't,
You
yeah.
can't- Well, I've been fired then, yeah.
The only time I remember being fired is working at Jack in the Box. I was in high school, and
What was your job at Jack in the Box?
I did the fryers and the grill. In those days,
By the way, I went to In-N-Out Burger today.
yeah, you told me.
I had a fast one morning because I had a doctor's appointment.
Just
And I went to
onion.
In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah.
And can I tell you? I'm sorry.
No.
I got a hamburger, fries, and a milkshake. It was $8.
Huh.
I couldn't believe how inexpensive it was. And for me, the best hamburger.
Me too.
In-N-Out Burger, fries, and the shake is fantastic.
I can't
$8.
drink them. They're too thick.
You know, that's the only. And you gotta warm it up. You gotta move the straw, and I'm sitting
much
there. I'm
work.
getting it, but it's freaking. You know, I maybe get a spoon.
Yeah.
Can I redeem
No,
myself?
You don't even put that much work into
Can I? Because
mixed drink.
I
We
was
had
a-
this discussion, Mark. You can't go to In-N-Out Burger and order special. You have to order
Oh, no,
whatever's on the
we've
menu.
talked
We've
about
talked about it. But go ahead.
No, so I
You
was
worked at Jack in the
great.
Box as
I
a
could do
fry
the
cook.
fryers and the grill. When they used to
At the
have
same
shrimp.
time?
Yes, I could handle a rush. I could handle the grill and the fryers, which was French fries.
And you had the long hair.
and yeah, I did.
And
I did.
they
and
put it in a
onion
net.
rings.
They
and
put it in a net.
The Burger Chef.
No, we had
fired
the
him
hat.
for doing that.
We had the hats. It
Okay.
wasn't super long. I was
All
in
right,
high
go
school.
ahead.
We had the hats, and I could handle it. And I was getting paid $1.35 an hour. I think
Wow.
it was 1920. No. and I was complaining, and I was really good, and I was complaining to the other guys, we should get paid more, da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, you're one of those
And then
guys.
the guy who owned the franchise came in the door. He was listening. And I was rebel rousing the workers of saying, we should all get
trying to
together.
unionize.
I was trying to kind of unionize. And so he said, you know what? This is your last day.
What? Really?
Yeah, but I worked there long enough to afford to buy my first movie camera.
Didn't he fire you because your hair was you? Or
No, I went. Okay, true story. After that. I went to McDonald's, got hired. I came in the next week, and my hair was long, not like long.
You put it in a ponytail.
No, they went back and they said you got to cut your hair. They grabbed the bag and said you got to cut your hair. I worked there one day and I said no, I don't want to cut my hair.
Really?
Yeah.
You couldn't put it in a net.
Not in those days. We wore caps. Yeah, this is like the 70s.
You were like little cap, like the Russian hat, like a little cap.
Yeah, that's it.
still have
Yeah, I wear it every night. But yeah, I can't think of but I remember getting fired. I'm sure. I made a mistake on going on a show that nobody wanted me on, but the network.
That must have been all of them.
Why did I set myself? No, and I remember they gave me a really big deal at Universal, and the show had been running 4 years, and everybody was into the show. And they go, "Who's this guy?" But for some reason, NBC, because I came from an NBC.
was that Superboy?
No, Superboy's great. No, I'm not gonna say the show because the people are probably still around, and it's kind of like, who are you? We were like 5 producers, and I go, I'm here, to, whatever, and I could tell that they did not want me on the show at all. So I ended up doing 13. It was a 22 pickup. I did 13, and then I went into development at Universal. So technically, I was fired because the other producers didn't want me there.
Didn't Glenn Larson fire you every night? You're off the show.
Oh yeah, well, Glenn
Larson, you got to tell him who Glenn Larson.
Glenn Larson created Magnum, Knight Rider, Fall Guy, Battlestar Galactica.
No, not Fall Guy.
18.
But go ahead.
No, you're thinking $6 Million Man is the one. No, Fall Guy.
Oh, yes, right, go ahead, sorry.
Anyway,
That's an
he was
inside
a
joke.
huge
That's
television
10, 20 minutes
producer.
to
Glenn
explain.
Larson, Buck Rogers, everything. A huge guy. And I worked
How
with
many
him.
shows on the air at one time? did
He
you
had
have?
7 on the air at one time.
Okay. So he was a big deal. Had his own plane.
Yeah, he
had
was
homes
great.
all
He was
over the
great.
place.
He brought me in the business.
I met him twice. Nice man.
Yeah, BJ and we went to dinner with him.
Yep.
BJ and the Bear and Sheriff Lobo. I came to Universal, he used to like to go out and have some wine at the end of the night, and he would every night, not every night, but he'd get mad at somebody, and he'd fire him. He said, and he's fired me like 3 times, and then the next day I'd come into the office. He'd say, Did I fire you? Wow. And yeah, I actually spoke at his funeral, and I told that story. He's a sweet guy, a talented guy. Literally created like 25 shows that you could, he's Quincy. I mean,
I loved Quincy. I used to love
he
that
was.
show.
He was a
I
good
met
guy.
Jack Klugman at a thing, and I said, "Man, for Odd Couple, for me, one of my
yeah,
all time."
yeah, you loved
and,
Odd
and I was backstage with him. I said, "I can't tell you how I must have seen every Quincy episode. That's like CSI. It was the first CSI.
It really
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It really was. But so, but
And
you
he's
never.
what?
But you've never been fired.
I've never had a job.
But I was gonna.
I never had I never had like a normal job. But I've been
right.
fired from shows because they've been canceled.
Yeah, but
So,
now I wanted to ask you is a question, and I think I know. Do you have your biggest regret of something you should have done and not done in the
Sure.
television
Oh,
business?
absolutely.
Tell us.
I regret doing Joni Loves Chachi because it just wasn't. Because it's very exciting to have your own show, but if I would have not done it, I could have done anything I wanted.
Yeah, it was.
Could have done anything I could have done. I probably would have had a full season or a 2-season order for anything I wanted to do after that.
But they so badly wanted that show.
I know
right?
they did. And it's, I was 22, 3, whatever I was, and you want your own show,
And you still were on
yeah,
Happy Days.
Yeah, but a little bit. But
Do you think if the writers, the situation was different, and the Happy Days writers stayed with?
it was the setup, George.
Right. Yeah.
It was the. This is not taking anything away from Aaron Moran. It should not have been a couple moving to us both in Chicago trying to start a band it should have been either just her or just me.
But it was still a huge premiere.
It was gigantic.
Yeah.
It was, I think, the biggest premiere ever.
Up to that date, yeah.
I think till now.
Really? Wow.
I think like 40 million people watched it in a country of whatever it was, 200 million.
Now, in retrospect,
Whatever.
what would you have done instead?
Not done it.
Not done it and just gotten another show.
I just finished up on Happy Days, and gone off and didn't.
But at the moment,
in the moment,
it was the biggest thing.
But the premise wasn't good. I loved working with Al Molinaro. I loved working with Ellen Travolta. The supporting cast were good people, but the writing, and I didn't like the writing at all. It just seemed, it was just, I don't know what they were doing, and I didn't. I honestly, I really didn't. I was young, and I knew what was good and not good, but I didn't know quite how to approach it. I didn't know how to.
And they probably threw so much money at you, right? It's hard to say.
Well, that's a long story. I mean, I got sued by Paramount.
Oh. Really?
But yeah, that's a whole other story because they promised me something and
we'll save it for TMZ.
And it was I loved working for Paramount, but it was a bit of an issue.
Would you have had your 2 albums out if you hadn't done Jolio's Chachi? Is that before that?
No, I don't. Yeah, probably. Probably. I mean, I 2 albums. Can you imagine? Can you?
Yeah, you charted with one of them. What was it?
Did I really?
Something in That Kiss or something like that?
I did?
Was it? Yeah.
Sing a little
Top
bit right
200.
now.
I was just singing Sinatra. What's wrong with you? You just stopped me. And anyway, I regretted that, and I regret quitting Diagnosis Murder.
I was going to ask you.
Oh,
that, yeah.
why? Why?
I don't. I just. What happened was, I got offered. God, was it Columbia? Offered me a big deal. So if you can get out of it.
You were 2nd year into Diagnosis, right?
I did 2 years. I was going into the 3rd
Okay.
year, and it offered me. They gave me a ton of. Paid me well. Do whatever I wanted to do, and all that. All that.
A development deal.
Development
Yeah.
deal,
Yeah,
and then blah blah blah, and all of it. And I just was like, sure. And I went to.
Yeah, how'd you get out of it?
My agent and I went to Dean Hargrove's house. Nice man. And I said, Dean, I'm just not happy. And he said, really? I said, yeah, I'm just not happy. And I'm just, and I really kind of wasn't. And he said, okay.
Wow.
And I just, and you know what I regret is I didn't call Dick Van Dyke.
And you liked him, right? You
very
liked working
much.
with him, yeah.
I didn't call him, and it was dumb. It was disrespectful.
Didn't even think of that.
As disrespectful, and I regret that more than quitting the show because he was a good guy.
You can tell him now that you're leaving the show.
Yeah, right. And plus, the show went another 5 years, I think.
5 or 6, I think.
Yeah,
It was like
and
an 8-year show.
But I went and worked, and I did a series, and then I directed a lot. So, I kept working, but I just it was a. You do stuff. You do stupid stuff.
retrospect,
You
so
do
easy to
stupid
do
things,
retrospect.
and I wish I didn't quit.
Did you ever do a pilot or a show that you loved and it didn't get picked up? Is there one?
Let me ask
particular?
a question.
Yeah, you
about
jump
this
in,
first.
George.
I suspect, because I know you, we've talked about this, that the workload on doing our show was way more work than doing a one-camera
Yeah, it
sitcom.
kind of is and
And
isn't.
you didn't like that, did you?
No, I don't like waking up in the morning. And you got to be at work at 6:30. But the workload is actually easier because I would have 2 or 3 days off
Oh, really?
because I wasn't in every scene.
Huh.
And Dick, because he was Dick Van Dyke, he's not, he worked X days. That was it. And I'm like, you're the boss, you're the king. You're
I
Dick
thought
Van Dyke.
it was
do
like
what you want.
long days where on
Very
sitcom
long.
you just
Very
come in
long.
like
Very long days.
I think
But-
he wants to talk about the thing.
you
that
couldn't call him
disappointed
because
you.
he wouldn't give you his phone number. or anything.
No, I could have reached that. It was, and Barry, his son too, Barry. I loved Barry. Loved working with. I could not work with Barry Van Dyke because the guy made me laugh every day, and there were days I couldn't look at him because I would laugh. Funny guy.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was a good guy. and I should have called him too. But I, live and learn.
Okay. You're saying
Are you interviewing me? Is that what's happening?
Yeah,
right
kind
now?
of. I don't know this about you.
Go ahead.
A pilot or show that never went that you thought should have, or you
I did
disappointed?
a pilot. It's maybe one of the best things I've ever done. It was a show called Rewind. It was on Fox, and it was such a good idea. Anyway, I did the pilot, and it was just fantastic, funny. And then from pilot to series, somebody tweaked it, and I went and had a meeting. And went, why are you doing this? Why are you changing it? Well, this, that. I said, yeah, but you have to tell me why. And the reasons don't matter. At the time they did, and I went, you own it, and I'm not gonna walk out. And it just never became that pilot. And the pilot was fantastic.
So you thought it would have been a huge hit.
Oh, I think it would have been a huge hit.
And they just ruined it. Or in your opinion, they
in
changed
my
it.
opinion, they ruined it. My opinion. Yeah. And it was just, it was basically the story of two guys, me and a guy named Maestro Clark. He was a comic. And we got along great. I like the guy so much. And there were some other good actors in it, some fun guys in it. Anyways, about two guys who've grown up together in the 70s. I think the show was we shot the show in the 90s. They grew up in the 70s, and they were both in the same job. They worked in the corporate world, and basically the show was everything in your life. Every decision you have to make reverts to back when you were a kid. So when there was a big decision, they would flash back to me and him in the 70s.
Would you play yourselves?
No, they had
kids
kids playing us, and with the lava lamps. And
cool.
The Maestro Clark is a black guy, so they gave him this big afro. I had this stupid hairdo. They gave the kid a stupid hairdo and the clothes and the kiss.
Like your hair
belt.
now.
Exactly. And the kiss belt buckles and the platform.
Trying to
All of
Don't
it.
knock on the kid's belt buckle.
No, I like Kiss, and it was just funny. It was just damn funny, and they just changed it. Anyway, so that was a. What the hell was the original subject?
There is things you regret, getting fired, and then
Or things you regret.
regret, or choices you made that you shouldn't have made.
I made a lot of different choices. Jesus, if you have the time machine, which I know you've been working on.
I've been working in my basement
Yeah,
on the time machine. I don't have a basement, unfortunately, but
Why are you hogging my lighter? You're holding it all the time.
I know. We should put it here.
Community
We should
area.
put the lighter here.
But anyway, I'm sure you regret doing things. You regret some things in life, and
I think I regret being born is probably the first regret I had.
Wow.
No,
Oh my God,
I had
your
a wonderful
poor
life.
parents.
I have a wonderful life.
Wow.
I did.
that's about it. So being fired, I guess I was fired from that. You could say technically, and that sucks. That sucks. I hate that.
You mean-
I hate when the show ends.
Yeah. How do they tell you? What's the main? Do they?
Oh, that's
Different.
That's a whole
Yeah,
segment
okay.
of what happened with that show. It just.
But when a show does get canceled, dude, is it usually because I'm not on that?
Usually because of
end.
me.
No, no, I know that. No, do they literally? Does the network
Yeah, it's
president
not
call
going forward.
you? Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
And goodbye.
Yeah.
All
Good
right.
talking to you. But I worked with Peter Roth. You know Peter.
Peter, I love you. He
Good guy.
super friends. I worked with him
Good
on
guy.
Saturday morning.
I know him forever. And he called me, I think. And I was like, Peter, I'll tell you, here's why I think. And he goes, I know. Okay. Yeah.
So he kind of agreed with you.
Yeah.
But nothing he could do
Yeah.
at that point.
He was, no. Was he Fox or was he Warner Brothers then?
I think he was
Tony
Warner Brothers
Jonas
for a
was
while.
Warner Brothers. That's a good guy. Anyway, this is all inside stuff.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, I
folks.
know.
Everybody's been fired. Tell us your comments. Tell us
how you've been fired if you've been fired.
And I'll tell the King Kong story in another segment if you want.
And next week, George can tell you how he got fired from this podcast.
Thank you.
Had to make a joke.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
See up my nose with the